Well, the main purpose of this trip to Ukraine is to bring President von der Leyen's message that she laid out in that annual State of the European Union address to the EU Parliament yesterday directly to the Ukrainian people. Now, interestingly, in that speech yesterday, she didn't mention defense once. And when it came to sanctions, she gave a robust defense of the current sanctions that the EU has imposed against Russia, saying that they are working and the EU will not weaken them at all, which was an important signal given that countries are getting nervous now with the energy woes coming up over the next months. But she didn't talk about any new sanctions, and that very much reflects the attitude of national governments. Instead, she very much focused on rebuilding Ukraine, and specifically on using the power of the EU single market to rebuild Ukraine. But what exactly she meant by that, she might elaborate on today in Ukraine. She had an interesting line in the speech where she said that Ukraine should have full access to the EU single market. What does she mean by that? Because right now, Ukraine has an association agreement. It has candidate status, but of course, that doesn't give full single market access. That only comes through EU membership. And for Ukraine, that is a very distant prospect and may not happen at all. So she may have been talking about, in the interim, having some kind of free trade agreement with Ukraine to help the country rebuild. But Ukraine might not be so enthusiastic about that because that would suggest a different track than EU membership, because it wouldn't make sense to spend years negotiating a free trade agreement if Ukraine was then going to just join the EU. So I think that will be keenly watched today, whether she gives more signals about what she meant by that line in yesterday's speech.
Dave, the EU's continued support of Ukraine has prompted Russia to push back even harder when it comes to energy supplies, something that's got many people across Europe worried with winter just around the corner. What's the EU Commission President's plan for that?
Well, the president's speech yesterday was very much focused on that. She actually unveiled a whole package of unprecedented legislation intervening in the EU energy market. The headline one was that Europeans are going to have to use 5% less electricity during peak hours. That's a mandatory target that's been set to national governments to deliver. The other big step was a windfall tax, or a solidarity contribution, as the Commission is calling it, on energy profits. So these record profits that energy companies are making are going to be confiscated and redistributed to consumers who are struggling with their energy bills. Those are just two of the raft of really unprecedented legislation that is stepping into the energy market in a way that the kind of free market orientation of the Commission is not normally attuned to doing. So those were some major steps yesterday. Are they enough to get the EU through this very difficult winter? We'll see that in the months ahead.
Dave, thanks for that. France 24's Brussels correspondent Dave Keating.